Live stream, random live stream. Why not? Especially here's for anybody who does, watch my videos. Thank you as usual. With everything that's going on now with YouTube, and it's not just the demonetizing; it's almost the complete silencing that they're trying to do with people. I'm gonna keep making fucking videos. I love this. I'm addicted to it. And I think it is truly necessary that more of us speak out when there are problems. However, there's only so much time I'm going to dedicate to the editing of videos. I'm gonna still make time for editing videos and trying to make almost artistic quality videos. Look, like this. This is one of my next drawings that I'm going to put out. Think outside your tribe. Okay, I'm gonna take my time with that one. But this one, I've been working on this for quite some time. And by the way, the fact that I'm already putting it out there, copyright. This is my idea. That's right, and I am going to capitalize on it. Okay, and let me not get too sidetracked, because I want to then start talking about capitalism and stuff like that and finding the right balance. So my wife is here. This is completely impromptu, babe. I'm doing a live stream, so just to let you know. Who cares? Let me close the door, by the way, to keep the cats from going. I don't want to make a 2-hour video because nobody's really watching those videos and stuff. And I'm sorry, I'm not even going to check right now if people are chatting and stuff, which I will. Not chatting, commenting, and I will. I'll check in on that. Right now, I want to get this out there about Charlottesville and what happened between Richard Spencer and the Unite the Right. And then the counter-protesters, which from what I understand, from what I've been trying to inform myself on, I don't know if they were factions from Antifa and Black Lives Matter, but the counter-protesters that came over, which they have every right to. But once you start throwing rocks at the other side, once you start antagonizing and then provoking violence, this is the problem. And if there's one message that I like to get out there, which I wish I could single-handedly change society for the better. How difficult is it to find the balance in life? I guess, if anything, how difficult is it to not be an asshole in this world? All right, and that's that. How difficult is that? And look, as far as from what I know of Richard Spencer and stuff, I've listened to this guy speak. About the only thing I agree with that guy on is atheism. He's an atheist too. Apparently, he doesn't believe in God. Good. I guess in trying to find the balance, we all could find the balance if we could all agree on reality, on the objective nature of reality, the things that are not a matter of opinion, the things that are a matter of fact. Like the world is round. And for all you fucking people out there, was that exactly round? It's a little bit fucking spherical. Go fuck yourselves, okay? Spare me the semantic shell games. You know what I mean? It's not flat. That's for damn sure. Okay? There's a truth we can all agree on. And it's funny that there are people nowadays that I am anyone who is a flat earther, I am positive they're just fucking being provocative. They know the world is round, dude. They know it's a sphere. They know it's. I got a little squishy ball that I like to fucking bring up, but I'm not going to keep getting sidetracked. The point is, they know it's true, but they want to fuck around. They want to be assholes, okay? And that's the thing. If more of us could finally agree on what is true and what actually works, like capitalism, that's why I was talking about capitalism before. If everyone agreed on that, oh my God, we would have so many less problems in this world. I think of those two things. Those, I think, are the two major epiphanies that I wish I could just wave a magic wand and inject into everybody. Number one, that there is no God and all religions are false. And number two, capitalism is always the answer. And yet we need to tweak and we need to understand why these happen. Look, as far as the first one, that there is no God and all religions are false, look, I'm willing to let that one go. Especially with family and friends, I don't go around fucking, hey man, you fucking, why are you going to church? I don't get obnoxious with them. I don't do what, in my opinion, the Antifa and the Black Lives Matter people did, or people speaking in terms on behalf of Black Lives Matter, what they did at Charlottesville. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. If you want to expose your ignorance like the Unite the Right people wanted to do, they wanted to show everyone just how fucking ignorant they are and how hateful they are. So somebody actually had a Nazi flag over there, a swastika flag, and a big one at that, okay? Waving that shit around. And you could see in that person's face, they are a mongrel. This is a person who I highly doubt they have a very high IQ. Highly doubt that. And I guess I could share the screen and show the picture. They're out there. It's a woman. It's a white woman, okay, with this flag. And you're just like, really? And then the other picture of the guy walking around with the T-shirt, and then the back, he's got a quote from Adolf Hitler that if you want to fight, go and fight. But for those of you who don't want to fight, you're going to be fucking basically trampled on. Okay, I'm paraphrasing the quote. I mean, and yet that is there. That is out there in nature. That is out there. That is unfortunately a disgusting aspect of our species and of reality, for that matter, that we need to contend with. And the way you contend with it is by letting it fucking expose itself. You don't stop its freedom of speech. You don't do that. You have the right to go and counter protest. But the moment you start throwing rocks, the moment you start doing, because maybe I should share the screen. I'm going to be looking for the pictures as I keep talking shit. The moment you start doing that, now you're the problem. You're part of the problem. And it's these three pictures that I really would love, people. And it's funny because I'm talking about them as if though I took them, and I obviously did not. Where is it? Picture, screen grabs, got to screen grab this shit. Once I get them out, I'll share the screen. And that's the thing. I mean, how difficult is it for us to find this balance in society? And I guess it's not for nothing. I guess it's not that easy. And the reason being is because no one is born knowing anything. Knowledge, all the knowledge that makes civilization what it is, it has been a long, hard slog. Okay? It's a long, hard slog to get to where we're at. To have this very machine that I'm using right now, this Microsoft book, which, by the way, not to get too sideways, Microsoft book has got some major flaws. Okay, I'm on to the third one because I ended up getting it with the guarantee. This is the third Microsoft book that I have, and it's got some pretty big problems. Like every once in a while, dude, it just won't type. The keyboard just won't work. And every once in a while, the keyboard, it goes into automatic caps lock, and I can't. Anyway, let me not get too sidetracked. It's still an amazing machine. It's a marvel of technology. The knowledge required to build this machine, and especially the knowledge to fucking create the kind of factories and all that has helped. That is, no one is born with that knowledge. It gets carried on. It gets, and when we write it down and all that. And I get it. I understand. If left to our own devices without all this knowledge, that's why we get the Charlottesville incidences. The Charlottesville, in my opinion, it seems to be a manifestation of our most base instincts as animals. And make no mistake, we have evolved. Hell, even Richard Spencer fucking agrees with that. And it's interesting, though, to hear Richard Spencer and his whole God, there's a term for it, which right now it's escaping me. The idea of having his own nation, the nation of whites, and which, by the way, blacks, there's enough blacks that also believe that too. And of course, I bet you anyone out there, like the Soledad O'Briens, and the reason why I'm bringing her up is because I fucking fired her off a little Twitter yesterday. Will be like, oh my God, he's a racist dude. Fuck you people. You people in the mainstream news, you hypocrites who are more concerned about losing your jobs. I think you're more concerned about losing your jobs than you are about trying to find the real solutions in society. I don't think you people are about that. And plus, I don't even think you're all that smart to be able to know what those real solutions are. You always hide behind, well, I'm a journalist. I just bring you bullshit. You people obfuscate and you lie through omission. There's a lot of shit you people do not want to talk about. And as much as the Unite the Right should be called out for the fucking hate speech and all the shit that they do and how counterproductive they are and how fucking mongrel-like they may be, if you do not point out why they're surfacing up right now. You're part of that problem. Okay, and it's not because Donald Trump, it's not because they're finding so much, how do you call it, support in Donald Trump, though I would like to see Donald Trump specifically call them out and disavow them by name. Richard Spencer, you're wrong with that whole theory of yours of fucking, damn, it keeps escaping me. There's a term for it. And Richard Spencer, and there's this other YouTuber out there, I want to call her out now, Tara McCarthy. I've seen her videos, and you can tell these people, I mean, as much as I try to almost empathize, just like I try to empathize with Black Lives Matter and all that, and I try to understand why these things are happening, you're wrong. Ultimately, after you do the research, after you're like, okay, well, let me look at the facts, let me take in everything, you do realize at one point they're wrong. And I'm sorry, with Black Lives Matter, this whole false narrative of unarmed Black men being systematically targeted and killed by the police, you're omitting a huge truth about criminality. And you're almost trying to justify criminality. And that criminality is a result of racism. It is not. My God. And then you people in the media, let me not pick too much on Soledad O'Brien, but I will pick on Rachel Maddow and Chris Hayes and all these other, the majority of people on MSNBC. I used to love Morning Joe. I can't stand watching those people anymore. I can't. Because they omit. They are so preoccupied with not losing their jobs that they will not show you the fuller, bigger picture. And that's my problem. And now you see this bleeding out in the forms of like what happened at Evergreen State College with Professor Weinstein, where they're, the no whites allowed day. What the fuck is wrong with you? The fuck? You don't fight racism with more racism, and much less with false narratives and the justification of criminality. What the fuck is wrong with you? And look, even there, I gotta relax. I gotta tone it down, because I know I'm not also going to win anyone over. I'm not going to convince people of what is true by insulting and yelling and barking out shit. Anyway, and the same thing holds the point that I was trying to make with me trying to empathize and trying to see the side of Black Lives Matter, but then you see, oh, here's that problem. It's the same thing with the white nationalists. And I am no way, shape, or form trying to defend them or justify them. I can almost see where a lot of them, the more you criticize white people and the more you falsely accuse every single white person, because here's another meme that's going around, that all white people are racist. The only thing is that those who accept it and those who don't, or those who admit it and those who don't. And then, of course, you could even break that down even further, of those who admit it, because I've had enough people admit to me that they're racist, openly and proudly. All right. And I guess you could break down that category of those who admit it and are good with it, and those who admit it, but they're so ashamed of themselves that the white guilt just takes them over. And yeah, we could find this balance, man. We can. And like I was saying, with trying to understand why the Unite the Right would happen. Again, it's not simply because Donald Trump is president. They feel like now they're empowered. I think a lot of people are just sick and tired of being called fucking racist when they know they're not. And then yet they fucking do racist shit. Like walking around with the fucking, the how do you call it, the torches at night. Because I saw this other video, this one really great video of somebody within that, within the march. And they're chanting blood and soil, blood and soil, and you will not erase us. Here, let me get this. And then supposedly the "you will not erase us" or "you will not get rid of us" turned into "Jews will not erase us." It's, ugh. They're wrong. They're wrong. And how difficult is it to see these things? Let me see if I can pull that up. Anyway, I'm all over the place. I think I'm gonna fucking end this pretty quick. Let me first share the pictures, the ones that I think are the most telling pictures of this. Come back over here. Let me screen share. Yeah. Oh, and I get that effect, that really cool effect. I'm going to leave it there for a little bit. Anyway, this is a problem. Look at this guy. I'm sorry, we have to just call it out. Black guy with his little fucking flame throwing shit at the white guy with the little fucking, and these other people here with a rebel flag. I understand why this black man over here feels so resentful of that flag. I get it. But to then come out with a fucking flamethrower, dude, you're adding to the fucking problem. And look at this guy over here. Really, what the fuck? He doesn't even know where he's at. I wonder if he's actually from that side. Whatever, dude. Fucking. Oh, the human species. Anyway, let me see the other one that. Oh, look at this woman. I'm sorry. I gotta say it. Unless she's not holding the flag. Unless she's actually criticizing it. But I'm gonna assume she's with the flag, right? Let's say she's holding that flag. She looks a little mongrel-like. But let me not say that. So let me not fucking go there. For all I know, maybe she's one of the anti-protesters. Maybe she's one of the anti-protesters. But look at the size of that swastika. Oh my God! Just why? Why does society? Why does humanity work this way? And I'll tell you why. Because I love that little screen there. Because there is no God. That's why. That's why. All we have is each other. Okay, that's all we got. Now look, I'm gonna wrap this up because I feel like I'm all over the place. I'm gonna wrap this up with saying if anybody's listening to me. Well, I got 10 viewers. What am I talking about? Of course, there's somebody listening. I come over here to YouTube. Go to my channel, and let me see. I'll invite people in for a little bit, and then I gotta go because I actually have a barbecue to go to today with family. See, that's the other thing that I think is very important to remember. You can't let the news dictate your entire worldview. And that's the balance that I'm also trying to find with making videos about this type of shit. I gotta go because I actually have a barbecue. Shut up. Anyway, you can't let, as I make these videos, I'm realizing you can't let the news fucking dictate your worldview. I look outside my window. I live in a great neighborhood. You know, there's a couple of fucking scumbags that every once in a while play their music a little too loud outside and stuff like that, but whatever. Right now, I've got a seemingly nice little gig that, you know, I go to work for, you know, 9 to 5. I'm sort of employed again. I have a beautiful wife. I got beautiful family and friends. My life is great. And it's very important to remember that unless your life is a fucking mess. And, you know, every once in a while, hey, my life has been a mess, okay? Well, right now my life is great, and it's important for people to remember that, you know, remember and enjoy the beautiful and the good things that we do have in life. Don't let, it's good to be informed about the news, but don't let it get to you. And by the way, also, if you really want to be informed about the politics that fucking really get to us and really affect our lives, it's the local politics. Hey, what's going on in Charlottesville, that whole thing, that doesn't affect me all that much at all. What does affect me are some of the local politicians right now. That there's an election coming up, and people like Jose Diaz, and there's another person. I got to inform myself on. These are the people jacking up our fucking property taxes, and not only jacking up the property taxes, jacking up the insurance rates for home insurance. And they make it impossible. Maybe not impossible, but they make it very difficult for people to pay their insurance and their very life, their very homes to protect them. That's the news that people really should be after. It's the local news, and of course that gets fucking buried for the most part. And a lot of local politicians like it that way. They love it that way, especially the councilmen and the mayors. And here in Miami, in fucking Dade County. Dade County's almost broken. It's not just Miami. I mean, most people think, oh yeah, Miami, Florida, oh fucking, they think South Beach. No, fucking Miami's like almost 19 cities. Okay, there's City of Miami Beach, City of North Miami Beach. There's fucking Coral Gables. There's Hialeah. There's fucking then, oh my God, there's so many of them. Sweetwater and fucking Perrine and all these other fucking places. And each one of them has their own fucking mayors and their own little city councils and their own fucking property taxes. Like, I won't ever live in Coral Gables just because of the property taxes that they pay over there. You know, the property taxes are way higher than where I live. Again, I want to totally give away where I live. Look, I'm all over the place. Let me see who's fucking who's on. You know what? I normally I don't like. I'm starting to realize it's not a good idea to just do an open invite to everybody. But fuck it, it's Sunday. Why not? Anyone who wants to jump in, come on in. Now's the time. But by the way, I'm doing another live stream on Wednesday. That one is going to be just me and Ernest Snooks talking about Venezuela. Okay, a Miami Cuban and a Canadian talking about Venezuela. It's going to be great. Two guys who don't live in Venezuela, who aren't fucking affected by or directly affected by Venezuela, and we're going to be talking about shit. Anyone wants to jump in? Go ahead. Link up above. I think I'm going to do my videos like this from now on. Fuck it. Fuck it. If YouTube is going to try to sign up, this is my way of fighting back YouTube, which I love YouTube, by the way. And I like Google too. Okay. I think these are great companies. But you're not infallible. All right. You need to be called out. And this is the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it like this. I'm gonna do it by fuck it. I'm gonna still keep using your platform. You can keep on fucking threatening me like, oh look, let me see. This is funny. Look at like this little banner that I get now on top of every time I go into Video Manager, I get, if you've earned less from ads recently, it may be because some of your videos have been identified as not suitable for all advertisers. Fuck you. I don't care. That's fine. I will say that I'm doing this for the money, but at this point, not anymore. I can't say it's for the money. This is now some fucking bizarre thing. Hey, what's up, Hellbound?
Hey, what's up, Nachi? How you doing?
Pretty good. Yeah, I saw your live stream yesterday. I was about to jump on.
Oh, okay.
But Saturday night, the wife's back in town, and so I was like, I struggled. I was like, should I jump on because of what you were talking about the First Amendment for some people and not for others?
Yeah.
So I was curious to see what you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, we really just kind of touched the surface on it. You know, I mean, I've actually been doing some thinking about it since then. And this is kind of what I've come to the conclusion. I don't care what people say and what they do and sharing their opinions and their viewpoints, but it bothers me when it reaches the point of violence. And I think that is the crux of the situation. I don't care if somebody's going to spout racist bullshit about whatever. But the minute they pick up something or get into a vehicle and commit violence, then I have a problem with it. And a lot of the people on the left have been promoting violence. They're saying it's okay to punch Nazis and all this stuff. So we're to blame for what's going on. You know, the culture that we are allowing to be where violence is the answer, we're to blame for that, you know. And that's the crux of my my opinion about that.
No, yeah, dude, and hey, it's and you, especially where you live out in San Francisco, where there is no shortage.
Oh yeah, yeah.
of all this, especially this. Well, I don't even want to use the word liberal anymore. This regressive ilk going on, and especially with UC Berkeley and stuff like that. Yeah, of course. Because I don't know, for me, it almost sounds like you're almost excusing putting your opinion out there. And I sometimes feel like that too. I'm like, who am I to say or to speak out? But dude, that's how we solve this problem. And I agree 100% with you on this. It's true, man.
And I think people get a weird opinion about California, especially here in the Bay Area. There's a lot of people who don't agree with what's going on, you know, but they're a little quiet about it. They're, you know, because they understand that the majority of the people here, the majority of the people that they work with are towards that mindset. So they're kind of staying quiet about it. But there's pockets of people here that don't agree with it. You know, there's friends of mine who don't agree with it. There's coworkers of mine who don't agree with it. So it's identity politics, you know, like people have been saying, it comes down to that. And so we're no longer looking at individuals. We're no longer trying to understand and relate to somebody's point of view. We're just saying, no, you're wrong. That's it, you know, and cut it off. And, oh, well, if you disagree with me, then you're a racist, sexist, Nazi pig. But we're not actually like listening to the arguments anymore. That's out the window. And yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, no, I was just going to say that the identity politics, I think, it's almost an inevitable manifestation of our tribalism. I mean, and I think it's a matter of trying to. God, I don't want to sound like, oh, it's up to me to educate the masses. I don't want to be one of these pretentious, pompous fucks. But I think that's what it is. I think that's what it is. And for those of us who care enough to do this shit, like it's Sunday right now. I could be out there riding my fucking bike, but for whatever reason, I feel compelled to fucking get out to YouTube and talk about this shit.
Right.
And people like us that, it matters to us, even though we're not affected by it, because neither you or I live in Charlottesville, so we're not. But it bleeds out, and it clearly it could end up affecting us. And it seems to me like it's such a simple solution. It's just a matter of educating people, and for people to look at the bigger picture, and also to look at themselves, to not give in to every single emotional urge. Even though I kind of gave into mine today by doing this live stream, but I like to think it's kind of productive. I'm not throwing rocks at people. I'm in my house, I'm not driving around with the mega horns. Hey,
You're not running people over because they disagree with you.
Oh my God, that's insane. And then I don't know. I always I probably read too much into shit. If I'm not mistaken, the guy was driving a Charger. The car named a Charger, a Dodge Charger, whatever. Mm-hmm. Stupid little detail that crosses my mind. But yeah, that's insane. And that came from, if I'm not mistaken, the Unite the Right side, the guy who did the driving and knocked, they drove against, they killed a counter protester,
Yeah. And but that again, I mean, I kind of agree with you about it doesn't affect us, but it does. It does affect us. We are, although we're divided by boundaries of country and state and city and all this, we're united as people, as a social society, which is compounded by the fact that we can go onto YouTube and talk to everybody in the entire world who has a computer or access to YouTube. So we are becoming a global society in a sense, in that way, and we are socially influencing each other. So what happens in Charlottesville, what happens in Europe, what happens in South America, what happens in Cuba, does affect us, And there was an old saying back in, well, I mean, it's still around, but it was think globally, act locally. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what it is. We need to understand the bigger picture, but also understand that each one of our social interactions throughout the day influences people's social consciousness. And so I'm really going to be I'm going to be getting away from identity politics and really promoting free speech, but no violence. That's what I'm going to be doing, because anytime we start getting into this identity politics, that's where problems start rising up, and it's difficult because we want to label certain groups so that we can talk about that group. But I think it's something that we need to start moving away from, because like you said, people just get into this tribalistic mentality and nothing good comes from it, No,
for sure. And from your videos, when I've seen it, I've never really seen you getting into identity politics. But if what you mean is that, you have to be a little careful with, they, when you start speaking they, especially when it comes to, for me, the ones that, I hate to say it, but I'll be honest, the ones that I sort of see as the problem is that whole Black Lives Matter, the whole Islam, Islam trying to fucking push on their Sharia law. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones that I see that are problematic. And even then you got to be very careful not saying they, and labeling it obviously as, and that's where you get the term not all, and stuff like
that. Right. Well, yeah. And I mean, this whole thing that happened in Charlottesville. Okay, so they're in the South. There's racial tension. They get together. They're talking about, supporting European nationalism, and then white nationalism, and being proud to be white. But they're carrying torches. So I mean, it's at night, and they're carrying. I mean, it's really reminiscent of KKK rallies.
No. I'll show you this video. I was gonna was going to bring up this video, and I'll screen share it now. Let me see. It's got to come over here in my downloads. And by the way, that was the term that I kept losing, the nationalism, the white nationalism. And I was like, wow, dude. What?
You know, but I mean, if that's the thing, though, if they want to promote white nationalism, that's fine. But as the minute that they start actually discriminating, acting upon, violence and stuff like that, that's when I have a problem with it. But if they want to say, oh, we need to have our own ethno-state and white culture and white genocide, yeah, I don't care. They can go ahead and keep talking about that. I'm not going to listen, but they can keep talking about it.
Right. And that's the thing. No, I don't. That's where, the free speech gets tricky. You got to allow that. What I would love to be able to do is talk them out of that. I would love to be able to be the kind of, to make the kind of videos that, would change someone's mind and make them realize, no, white nationalism is not a good idea. Just like Black Lives Matter and that whole thing. I'm sorry, it's the easiest term I could use for that whole false narrative that you get with the thing about, unarmed black men being killed. I would love to be able to, show people that it's not a Fox News talking point, that you need to address the criminality. You need to address the dysfunctional families, dude. And I'm sorry. And by the way, it's not something that just happens with blacks. I see it a lot within Hispanics. I already know enough people, which I'm not going to mention, but I personally know enough people that follow that pattern, that they follow the fucking multiple children with multiple partners, and one or two of those partners are like fucking career criminals. That's not good. And then what really frustrates me is when you see the news and you see the Rachel Maddows, who right now she's like at the fucking top of the ratings. She justifies this shit, and then that's where I do get angry. That's where I get angry, because I'm like, oh, and then that's where I want to hurl out, you fucking cunt. Your help, and like I remember the way she covered the Milwaukee riots, and I made it a point to download that little segment, which I'm not going to get into that one, but she was literally justifying the burning down of a gas station. She was like, well, you got to look at it from the side of the pro. No, you don't. That's where you don't. I think it's important to understand, okay, you want to understand it, but you have to say with certainty that's wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we have to do as to change social consciousness, is we have to say, no, it's not okay to commit violence. It's not okay to punch quote unquote Nazis. It's not okay to burn your local business down. It's just not okay. And hey, who else joined the chat?
It's me, Nachi.
Hey, what's up? Hold on a second. What up, Eric? Wait, sorry, because the video that I had there was for, and right now I don't want to waste too much time. There is a video, and I'm sure you can find it, of the night before, where they're marching with their torches, right? And at first, when I started watching the video, I was like, oh, go on, you man, I guess it's come to this where people really feel like they need to. And let's just put it this way: at first, when I started watching the video, I was like, it was something I didn't disagree with. Not something I agreed with, but not something I disagreed with. But then when you start hearing their chants of blood and soil, right, and then especially what they were saying, which is Jews will not, or you will not erase us. I think that's what they were saying. You will not erase us. And then
they were chanting, "You will not replace us."
You will not replace us. But then it slowly morphed into Jews will not replace us. Like there was a couple That's what I heard reported in the news, and I remember, and I don't know if they're like now taking that out of context or if they're making shit up, but I wouldn't be surprised.
If you actually watched the live stream, I was watching it from Red Elephants and from Brittany Pettibone.
Hey guys.
Hey, what's up, Jace?
For the most part, I can't stand Richard Schrinkter and his whole ilk. Right. But if you look at it, from their side, just based on like right and wrong, they had a permit, filed in February for the park. They had every right to it. Police surrounded the park. which kept them in place for for their permitted protest or whatever you want to call it. When Antifa and BLM started breaking down a barrier at the south end of the park, that's when police deemed the protest unlawful, and they started breaking up. This is even before the speakers or anything. Before the protest, before the licensed protest actually even got off the ground, they deemed it, and then that's when all hell broke loose. And they're painting this as, the racist. They're really not giving context to what happened. They're not. I'm not saying the dude who went all Dukes of Hazzard in his Dodge, and mowed down the normies. Not saying he's right, or other people hitting people with flags. I mean, but you constantly see the instigation from the left.
For sure. I agree.
Even like in the Boston incident, they surrounded, they captured the hill. If you want to, it equate it to the old, King of the Heap, or capture the flag. They captured the hill. And and it seems like the media cameras don't start rolling until the other side starts fighting back.
Right.
I mean, it's really ridiculous.
One question I have for Richard Spencer is, can he take a DNA test? I doubt he's 100% white. I doubt it.
That's a good point. I don't think anyone anymore is 100% of the four major races. Which I don't even know if this is scientifically proven, but I've heard them, the Australoids, the Caucasoids, which the Mongoloids and the Negroids. So in other words, the Australoids being like the Aborigines from Australia and most of the Pacific Islands, the Caucasoids being whites, Mongoloids being Asians, and Negroids being blacks. I don't think anyone anymore is 100% that. And either way, we're all the same species. We can all procreate with one another.
See,
and I don't even care if if somebody sits there and says, I want white pride, and I want to have my own white family and my own white nation, and I don't give a fuck. They can sit there and spout whatever nonsense they want to spout, but the minute
it's like good luck trying to find it.
But the minute the violence breaks out, that's when we have a problem. And so, I don't care what nonsense they're spouting. I mean, they're spouting the same nonsense that people from the Nation of Islam and other people on YouTube have been spouting about wanting a black nation and black power and black rights. So, I don't care what these fucking idiots want to do. If they want to have like their own little separatist nations, but I do care when people get killed and violence breaks out.
Oh, for sure, man. And by the way, with what I said before about Rachel Maddow being a cunt, look, I could find some common ground with her clearly on social issues. And now, when we were talking about this whole thing of white nationalism and all that, and people having the right to at least espouse it, I remember one time she was interviewing Rand Paul, and it is interesting how Rand Paul still, I'm not saying he's a racist or anything like that, but when it comes to civil liberties, and like he is pretty much against for example, when it comes to restaurants, like he does believe that restaurants should have the right to discriminate, you can't go around telling businesses who they should serve and who they shouldn't.
That's just capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and here's where there's the fine balance. Like, I think when it comes to, and I was just thinking about this yesterday, and that's where I did agree with Rachel Maddow over Rand Paul. And I agree, man. I think when it comes to, you should not have the right to discriminate on a person's skin color or their ethnicity or their sexual orientation and stuff, especially for a simple business like a restaurant where you're in and out. However, if a bakery does not want to create a gay wedding cake, and what is a gay wedding cake with two fucking muscular guys making out with each other or whatever, they should have the right not to do that too, because now you're asking a business to involve themselves in a product and or service that takes up time, and that is basically an insult to what they believe.
Yeah, and
I wouldn't force the guy. I wouldn't force him to bake me a cake. I would just ask politely.
Yeah, and if they don't want to, you should be able to go. But to then try to shut down that business.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was a little.
There's kind of, yeah, exactly. I agree with you, Nachi. But there's kind of two differences. One is more covered under federal employment laws, like you can't discriminate against women, you can't discriminate against minorities, you can't discriminate against somebody's religious choice. So that's already protected, and that's different. So if somebody hires you, they can't just not hire you just based upon your sexual identity, your race, religion, blah, blah, whatever. But if somebody comes into your business and says, hey, I want you to make a cake that says, fuck the gays, or, down with blacks, or whatever, yeah, you have the right to say, no, I'm not interested in making that cake. But those, those are two completely separate areas. It's like if I asked you to draw a picture for me of something that was offensive, and you're like, no, I'm not going to do that. You're right, as a business person. But if you wanted to hire somebody and discriminate them, no, that's against the law. You can't do that.
Right, and finding those little balances, that's I think is a little tricky, and I think most people don't get that. And that's why we're getting what we're getting, like in Charlottesville, and I shudder to think anywhere else. By the way, MC just joined on. I'm curious, anything you wanted to throw in here? Oh, I guess he's not on right now.
Hey, Nachi, I'll give you a real-world example. When I lived in Florida, I was part of the aluminum fabrication, screen enclosures, patio rooms, elite add-ons, structural rooms. Florida. Anything north of Orlando is a giant trailer park. Alcoholics and drug. You know what I'm talking about. Polk County, and I did work all the way from Sebring down to the Keys. We would rather hire illegal Guatemalans and pay them $15 to $18 an hour than to because they worked and they were reliable and they took pride in what they did, rather than hire these trailer park rats who spent all day drinking natural ice and texting some lot lizard hoping to get a BJ when they get home, and asking for payday advances and everything else. You have the right. I mean, discriminating on grounds of what you're going to get. I mean, you can say, oh, you can't lump. If I was a business owner, I wouldn't let people with sagging pants into my store, with do-rags and weave wraps, just because I know what type of people they are, whether they were white, black, Spanish, or whatever.
He's got a. No, and that's where you need to be able to discriminate from time to time. I mean, there's a time and place for discrimination. There just is. Somebody's got your.
Well, I'm gonna go to Angles. Sorry, my grandmother.
All right. Anyway, all right, cool. Wait, but look, let's bring it back to Charlottesville. And one thing that I would like to, I'm curious to see what you guys think, is the whole thing about taking down. I mean, the whole point of the protest that they had was the taking down of Confederate statues.
I think it's revisionist history tactics, and it should not be done. Leave them in place, put up a plaque in memory of, whatever, but they need to remain to remind, and they're there for a reason.
I have Southern pride. I do not want to remove the rebel flag. I love the rebel flag, but I don't see it as a symbol of racism. I see it as Southern pride.
Right. Yeah, and
well,
I think they
why are they asking for the monuments to be removed? I mean, let's be honest. Those monuments have been there in some cases close to 100 years. So what is the purpose of removing the monument?
The anti-hate. That's the only reason they keep on giving for removing these monuments, is anti-hate. And I think if you remove the monuments, you remove the fact that the Civil War ever happened, and you're taking the importance off of the Civil War.
Yeah, well, it's revisionist history.
It is revisionist history, but what's really bothersome is that what they're doing is they're saying, essentially, your feelings on this matter don't matter because my feelings trump yours. There's no logical reason to remove the statues.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's all the left has been running on. My feels. Facts don't have feelings.
right. And so these people feel it's racist. Okay, that I can understand why you feel that way. Other people don't. And why is that a good enough reason to remove a statue? Are people congregating there and holding Klan rallies and then going off from there to sit up there and lynch a black person? If they're not doing that, if it's nothing like that has been going on, then what's it bothering people? Well, I'm offended. So you want a government situation where no one's offended? Is that what it is? You're going to tell me that you're going to have a position where nobody's offended by anything? Well,
yeah, they'll always be offended by something.
That's our society we live in. I wish we didn't live in that society. I wish we could just say whatever we want.
You know, when it comes to the Civil War, and it comes to specifically Robert E. Lee, okay, Americans should have a very good understanding. He should be an important person for every single American. Because at the end of the Civil War, all right, when Robert E. Lee was defeated, all right, he had the opportunity of going, you know what, instead of just laying down my arms and telling people to lay down their arms, right, I'm going to go ahead and go into a guerrilla type of mode where I'll always be opposed to this government. This would have led to, all sorts of guerrilla tactics and everything else going on in the South that would have lasted probably hundreds of, 100 years. It may even still be going down if he had done that. All right, to totally denigrate this individual, all right, who's actually a very important figure and actually did more to end the Civil War, right, than any other single individual, is just a whitewash and an atrocity on so many levels. And let's go back to something else. A lot of our military bases, all right, have the names of Civil War generals, both in the North and in the South. Fort Meade, for example, is one of the ones. But then you have Jackson, in South Carolina. You
Dixon,
have
Fellwood.
You have a lot of these names. All right. So what are you going to do? Come back and say, well, now I've got you because I'm offended because this is Fort Jackson. It now has to change because it's offensive too. How far down this road do we go?
Until they get into power.
Do we go to Jefferson and say every street that says Jefferson in it that sits there and talks about Thomas Jefferson has to go because he owned slaves? When does this end?
And I'll tell you, ever since long before this whole movement and this thing taking on, when I was younger and I discovered that about Thomas Jefferson, being a slave owner and stuff, I've never been a big fan of Thomas Jefferson. Actually, not a fan at all of Thomas Jefferson. And yet, no, I guess you guys are right. That's why I'm kind of quiet on this one and listening to you guys say, because I don't know. I didn't really know what to think about that, about the removing and stuff like that. I myself, when I was younger, watching the Dukes of Hazzard, I ended up loving the rebel flag, the Confederate flag, and I have one myself. I don't fly it or anything like that, especially once I started discovering how many people who do take pride in the rebel flag wanted to see people like me of Hispanic backgrounds to get the fuck out of the United States. And yet it's tricky to see, what do we keep, what do we acknowledge, what do we ignore,
And you can't erase the past. I mean, the past is a part of our culture, it's a part of our heritage, it's a part of our society. It's like going back in history and tearing down the statue of Julius Caesar because he murdered a whole bunch of people, or Vercingetorix or whoever. It doesn't make any sense. It is part of our culture. It's part of our society.
I'll give you
Thomas Edison stole inventions, so what are we going to do? Get rid of the light bulb? No, we're going to keep using the light bulb.
I'll give you an example of cherry picking revisionism. In the Smithsonian Institute African American Museum in D.C., there is a Thomas Jefferson display, about how he was important, to the slave culture and everything else, to slavery and the founding of the Constitution, or founding of early, U.S. history and stuff. But yet they're protesting to take down the Thomas Jefferson statue, in what is it, in Tennessee or Kentucky?
I don't know which one, but yeah, I've heard that they want to start taking them down.
So what do we do? Do we burn all the copies of the Declaration of Independence because he wrote it?
Yeah.
Oh, no, yeah.
Exactly.
No, the tricky thing, like, yeah, what Chase had said about, Thomas Edison, well, a light bulb. Okay, that might be a little bit of an extreme analogy, but yeah, well, look, over in Germany, they still have the concentration camps, and I remember going to one of them, which I think was, I can't believe I forgot the name of the one that I went to, but I remember going to one of those concentration camps.
Auschwitz?
I don't think it was Auschwitz or even Treblinka, because when I was in high school, I had to write up.
Dachau?
1 second, guys. I need to go to the bathroom.
No, that's cool. I'm sorry, I had to mute.
Fun.
Sorry, I muted you there, bro. But anyway, we can't. Yeah, it's not a good idea to take these down. Though I do wonder, look, here's another example of trying to find the balance. Chelsea Handler, do you guys know? You guys ever
Who doesn't know that train wreck?
I used to like her, especially when she first came out and stuff like that. I thought she was pretty funny. Anyway, She's got a Netflix series, and one of the episodes she did was just called, because it's called Chelsea Does, because she really wants to play up the whole slut fucking angle. She's a whore. She'll fuck anybody. All right, whatever. So she has Chelsea Does Race. And she goes, I forgot what state it was. She goes to a southern state. It was either Mississippi or Alabama, where it's still fucking rife. And I was with her and agreeing with her when she was showing some of the reenactments of like Southern culture, and how there were people, and you could see it on the episode, people who are trying to justify the slavery, like, oh no, but it was in the best interest of slave owners to treat their slaves right. And you're like, what? People were really trying to justify that shit. That's like a weird way. That's like another weird twist on white guilt, I guess. But anyway, so I'm with her on that, and she's literally showing it. She's just not spouting her opinion. She's showing it, and she's showing some of these little scenarios. But then she goes to a slave museum, like a slave history museum run by black men, and they're showing all that. Hey, sorry, I'm going to mute you there, Chase. It's just that I can hear the background stuff, man.
Okay, I'll mute.
Okay, cool. Anyway, so all of a sudden she's in this little slave museum with these black men who are showing the slave ships and the shackles and all that and stuff. And she gets so worked up where she's like, oh my God, if I were you guys, I'd be out there rioting. And you're like, now you're going to the other extreme. It is not a good idea to now start justifying what has happened in Ferguson, what has happened in Baltimore and in Milwaukee, and calling for like this uprising, these violent uprisings. And
how long are we going to keep rehashing this? It's like resurrecting a dead horse and beating it to death. I don't care about what happened to my ancestors in Gaul when they were enslaved, beaten, and had their right hands chopped off so they don't rebel again. Am I going to go back and keep hashing it over with the Italian people about what happened in Rome,
right,
in what, 32 BC in Gaul? I mean, come on. At some point, we have to just fucking move on and just say, yes, shit has happened in the past. Let's move on, and keep rehashing this. It's just ridiculous.
You know what? On the grand scheme of things, the term slave comes from Slav. There was more white people enslaved in the Eastern European countries by the Arabs than anybody else across all of history. You're talking, 50 million people from, Eastern European countries enslaved, by the Arabs and by the Egyptians. And I mean, look at the the Jews. I mean, they've been
all
enslaved. You know,
all that's true, but at the same time, it wasn't the kind of institutionalized slavery that ended up in the New World. And whether we like it or not, all right, slavery has roots within the United States that go back to a near historical time frame rather than an ancient historical time frame.
But that's kind of a null point, because what are we supposed to do with that?
Yeah, you don't see all the white people going, "Hey, you know, where's our, you know, because we were part of this too." No, you have to move past it. You have to get on. You know.
Well, I agree. I agree that at some point you got to say, "Look, what's going on here? When is enough enough?" All right, and this is one of the reasons why some of the rulings that have come down about affirmative action, all right, haven't helped matters. They've only made things worse. All right. For example, the ruling, the Sandra Day O'Connor ruling, she was involved in it. I don't know if she's the one who wrote the primary ruling or not, on Michigan, where she said, well, in 20 years, we won't have to worry about this kind of affirmative action anymore. Well, what kind of legal ruling do you say, well, in 20 years, we're going to do this for 20 years, it's bad, but we're going to say it's legal for the next 20 years. That's not a legal rule. That's not basis of law. That's a ruling that says, well, this is how I feel about it, so therefore this is what I'm deciding. All right. And you have a Supreme Court justice that made that ruling.
Yeah, and right. Law is supposed to deal in absolutes.
Correct. Now that and
Is
judges
that better?
Go ahead.
Is my mic better?
No, okay, yeah, no, now we don't have that weird background noise. What I was going to say really quick, the reason why I wanted to bring up the thing, the reason why I brought up the thing with Chelsea Handler, and look, I'd be curious to see what Chase says since he lives in Georgia, which is a fucking southern state. I kind of agreed, and I think the point that Chelsea Handler was actually trying to make with that was like there is like this constant reminder within some of these southern states of like this slavery. It's almost like this oppression, and that's where I'm trying to understand why they probably want to take down the statues, but then that will be revisionist history. But at what point do you continue to remind, especially Black Americans, that hey,
the reason why we're doing it is because we want to be known as a liberty state. We want to be known as that state that's accepting. We don't want to be like the other southern states. We're a very liberal South state. We're very liberal. That's why. We're conservative but very liberal. That's our mindset.
But over in Georgia, do you see any of that where like there's a subtle use of the Civil War as a reminder that, you know, whites could always still take power, or like there's like a subtle rubbing your face in it? You know what I mean?
There's nothing subtle about it, and it is there. It's not subtle. They're actually teaching us in our schools, in our public schools.
Sorry, I had a car. Talking about background noise, I had a car from it. But wait, so what are you saying that they're teaching in the schools? They're teaching
that white people could easily get back to power, and that Black people can't be racist and stuff.
Oh, okay, they're teaching that angle. They're teaching.
Yeah.
No, because I thought it was the other way around. I thought that there was a subtle reminder of like, hey, know your place, Black man. The whites, if we ever get angry, we could fucking take over again, and we can get really nasty. Which I've heard literally spoken through by like Stephen Molyneux on some of his things. Like he actually will talk about like, hey, the white race, hey, we'll go piss off the whites. And
that's like 1 in 10, to be honest with you. We're not racist. We don't see race here. We just like our guns, and we're just Southern, but we don't really see race. But at the same time, we're getting to the point where we're becoming SJWs, basically.
Yeah. It seems like that museum that she took a tour of, it seems like that's more oppressive than a statue of Thomas Jefferson. I mean, that whole museum is nothing but about slavery. Thomas Jefferson had slaves, but he also did a lot of other things. That was just that was like one element of his being, his person. But there were a lot of people at that time who were very wealthy who had slaves. That's how they acquired their wealth.
Well, actually, if you want to look at the numbers, only 7% of Southern whites actually owned slaves. Only 7%. But
yeah, it was a small percentage.
But you're also talking 7% of 4 million people instead of 7% of 175 million people.
Right. Yeah. And that's the other thing. It's like
you're not really going to find that in Georgia.
We have to continually. Sorry, let me finish this. We continually have to pay for what happened with some ancestor hundreds of years ago who we're not even related to. It's like.
Well, but it's not just about ancestors, holding slaves, right? I mean, you have the whole Jim Crow things, right? There are people still alive that had lived under those laws, all right? So, I mean, it is understandable to an extent, okay? But you don't fix things you don't fix racism by putting in laws that are racist. That doesn't fix racist laws aren't fixed that way. All right. And the worst part about this is it comes from people on the left who use the emotional ties to say, look, we're on your side. Your ancestors were slaves. We're going to sit up there and help you out. They use the emotions to gain power. And then what happens to the African Americans? What happens to the people that are suffering in those areas? Do they get anything? No, they're treated like dirt. All right, they're given a few handouts and crumbs, and then they're used as a bloody shirt to quote unquote threaten and intimidate other people. If you don't like the way we're doing, we're going to release a Ferguson on you. We're going to gin up a riot in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you know what? And that's exactly what Eric Holder.
Things would have never happened if the media didn't do what they were doing. Things would have been better if the media didn't stir up people.
When Eric Holder went to Ferguson, he justified that situation, and that's why you've seen more and more things like it.
And Maxine Waters justifying the LA riots back in the early '90s.
Yeah, with the cocaine thing, with the coke for guns thing, with the overthrowing of the the Colombian government, or it was the
I don't know the details behind that, but yeah, with Ricky Ross, I think it was the name, Highway Ricky Ross or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. Like, I know a lot of people try to say, "Oh, well, look. Let's assume the CIA and the FBI right now, because I don't know all the details. Let's say they were pumping the fucking drugs into the neighborhood. At one point, though, because I've lived in a neighborhood with drug dealers, and I myself ended up trying my hand at selling drugs. There does come a point, though, where the majority of the community has to take a stand and fucking tamper down the drug dealers. And actually, in our neighborhood, the person that would sell drugs and shit, he was already the auto-corrector, making sure that nobody else was fucking, selling drugs in the neighborhood other than him. But the neighborhood overall made sure that guy was not fucking selling crack cocaine to the kids either. You see what I mean? And that's the thing. Like, as much as they want to, at one point, the self-responsibility's got to be put into
play. Yeah, nobody's forcing them to stick a crack pipe in their mouth.
And then that's the weird thing. I see someone like Jay-Z bragging, like fucking at least his first early albums are all about bragging about fucking selling crack cocaine. And then the guy argues against having fucking cops in neighborhoods. And you're like, and it's just, I don't know, the whole point of me even bringing up this whole live stream was that, is like, how difficult is it to find that balance? And I wonder, I was even thinking today, starting a website of what is true, what is not.
Well, because of the information age, it's easier for people to find their own echo chambers, to find the things that they want to hear, to confirm their biases, and to find the niches that they feel a part of. Whereas before, you actually had to talk through intermediaries who, it kind of quelled and stamped down the emotional enrage and things that you thought were true. Like the other night I was watching a stream. 12% of blacks believe that if you go to the hospital, white people steal your organs. And this is true. I memean, it's ridiculous because people are trapped in these echo chambers, and everybody with a smartphone, they own. You ever hear of Black Twitter? it's where, you know, it's like a black community of tweeters, you know, all follow each other, and it doesn't even cross onto the mainstream Twitter. You know, like Tariq Nasheed and Poe Light and you know, like just these pro blacks, and it's just really easy for people to find their echo chamber and for people to confirm their biases.
How is that possible for him to get popular? I don't see the appeal of Tariq Nasheed.
No, well, I mean, that's the thing. It's no one is born knowing anything, let alone everything. And all it takes is, you know, getting bad information, and you will follow it. And you are the people who, I don't know why, and I would love to know if there's a neurological reason for it or psychological, whatever. Why is it that some people can't see past that? And for me, I see it with Catholicism. You know, my family's Catholic, and it's amazing how few, man, it's like not even a handful of people within my family that figured out this is all bullshit. You know, but the rest of my family, dude, they still hold on to that shit, and they still spend the money on the fucking ceremonies, you know, and those ceremonies are expensive. The baptisms, the fucking first communions, all those fucking ceremonies are into the thousands of dollars for some people.
Most of the times when I've dealt with people who believe any kind of conspiracy, everything from, you know, the Illuminati to the Zionist conspiracy, it all comes down to they want to believe it. That's what it comes down to. They actually want to believe it, and they will justify it. But like I've tried to like sat down and talk to people and like say, okay, how could the Illuminati possibly be running the world, and, you know, walk them through it? And they have an excuse for every single argument that I would present to them. But the argument is flimsy. So it comes down to they just want to believe that, and they are willing to suspend all judgment for these ridiculous theories rather than see the truth of.
They find comfort in their own confirmation.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I thought the Illuminati thing was like in that Treasure Hunter movie, that movie invented it. I didn't know that people actually believed in it.
No, the Illuminati's been around. The concept of the Illuminati has been around for a very long time, but it actually stems from the actual Illuminati, which was in Bavaria in around 1770. But that organization actually disappeared. It was actually dismantled by the church and the King of Bavaria.
I don't see how they would control America, but maybe Russia, maybe, but not Sweden or America.
Hey, what's up, Ernest? Hey,
What's up?
you're coming into the tail end because I'm gonna actually have to cut this short because I've got a barbecue. There's goodness in this world that I'm gonna go attend to now.
Yes, you're going to tend to that meat and get yourself some of that rum. That's some.
Have a good day.
Thanks, but no, it'll be single malt whiskey. That's what I'm gonna be enjoying later on today.
I can't drink. I'm 17.
Oh shit, you're 17. All right, man. That's well, I hope we're not corrupting a minor here, but
Yeah.
Too late.
But no, I just wanted to come on and just say, I don't know what the hell happened down there with this whole thing.
Right.
Crap, that got a bit crazy.
No.
The funny thing is, I think it's pointless. It's not really helping their cause. It's just damaging it.
Yeah.
It's not helping whose cause?
The rioters.
Oh no! You really misunderstand the only people this hurts are the people who are like, look, I have Southern pride. I just want to sit up there and have our statues left alone. This thing, it went exactly as the Richard Spencers want. This makes them martyrs in their group of people's eyes, and they gain followers from that. And the converse of that is true. All right. You've got the Antifa people who say, "Look, our people are being run down in the street because of these racists," and it's going to increase their numbers.
Oh God, it's going to become another.
Thank you for telling me. I would have never known.
This This is, I'm telling you, this is going down a really, really bad path. And the only way to put a stop to this right now is for the local police, when these kind of situations are going to come up. I mean, it's obvious. It was obvious to everyone, or it should have been, the night previous when they saw that rally, what this was going to turn into, because they had already been given indications that the Black Lives Matter group and also the Antifa were moving their quote unquote troops into the area, all right, from all over. All right. So this should have been obvious to everyone that the alt-right was coming there in force from all over. The Antifa was coming in force from all over. The Black Lives Matter was coming in force from all over. Everyone could see that what this was going to turn into. And yet, instead of putting a police presence that said, no, this isn't going to happen. For example, you start talking about how the barriers got broken down. As soon as barriers got broken down, the National Guard should have moved in as a wall and said, no, this is over, and just started arresting people. That's the only way that this kind of stuff is going to stop. And if people keep letting this stuff happen, it's going to get worse, not better.
I agree 100%.
They need to use real bullets, too.
Let her speak for a second there. Sorry.
I agree wholeheartedly. And this, honestly, what I found scary was that the governor didn't condemn Antifa. He just went after, you know, the alt-right. And now, you know what that says to me? That says to me, as someone who used to be a leftist, that we're the guys who are doing the right job. You know, we have tacit support from the state government. So, you know, this is going to encourage them. This is going to say, you know what? We can go out and we can beat up these fascists and nothing bad is going to happen to us. And you know what? Who knows? By the way, I didn't catch the whole thing lately. Was that guy who hit the people at the Challenger, was he alt-right? Is that confirmed yet?
Yeah, it's confirmed he's alt-right. There's pictures of him that was at the rally the night previous. All right.
Okay.
And so forth. So
on a sad note, really quick, the memes have come out, and you guys seen that old Dodge Challenger commercial with George Washington driving the Challenger?
No.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, they've turned it into that. It's pretty messed up. Yeah, I can't look at a Challenger and George Washington the same way anymore, but it was pretty messed up. Like, I'm glad that we don't have this kind of thing up here in Canada. Happen sooner or later, though. But like I said, sides were responsible for this, and honestly, I think Trump he made the right answer, because you know, everyone was telling him, you know, you have to condemn all the races, and he was like, yeah, okay, well, I condemn many sides, because Antifa had a hand in this, the alt-right had a hand in this, the neo-Nazis and Klansmen that showed up had a hand in it, and it's the state government and the city's fault that this escalated to the way it did, because they were so scared of reacting in the appropriate manner, and they've dropped the ball, and now people are dead, and it's on their hands. At the end of the day, you know, and I just don't know what to do. I just don't know the direction the United States is going in, but I'll be honest, it really doesn't make me want to go down and visit anytime soon.
Label them as terrorist groups.
Yeah, but that doesn't really do anything.
It really wouldn't. Antifa's in a cell in a cell structure that you can't really. It's not like you can just go in and arrest the guys from Antifa and all of a sudden they all just disappear.
No, but you can list them. You can list them as a terrorist organization.
So if any public gathering or any public happening involving Antifa, they can be arrested immediately for domestic terrorism.
And then we'll have to do the same thing
with
for the
Ku
alt-right.
Klux Klan, the same thing with the frickin' neo-Nazis. You put them all as frickin' domestic terrorists and say, if you guys have a rally somewhere, we're going to stop it.
Yeah, but now you're stifling free speech.
And again, that's where we get into the balance. Like, where do you find that balance?
Okay, the free speech is an individual right. All right, and I understand what you guys are saying. I really do. But free speech is an individual right. If you're going to go there as an individual and speak all your freaking nonsense, fine. If you're going to get like-minded friends to do that, as soon as you say, we are X, however, then you are a terrorist group announcing your intentions.
No, that's a real slippery slope, because a group is made up of individuals.
I
groups
agree.
find a common ground in an area. So yeah, that's a slippery slope if you start doing that. I mean,
Well-
I agree that we need to keep them separate. We need to enforce that so that violence doesn't break out. But as for if a group of individuals want together and spout whatever nonsense they want to spout, they can do that. But the minute it turns violent and the police allow that violence to escalate, then it's a serious problem.
Yeah, it's
I agree there, dude. I agree. I definitely am all for protecting freedom of speech as much as possible. But it's funny, even freedom of speech has its parameters. You know, that's the thing. But anyway, dude, look,
I think that yeah. No, I was just going to say before I head out and let you enjoy some succulent meat. And by the way, you have to use grade A Canadian beef. Anything else is shit. So, I'll fight on that, boys. I lived in Alberta, which is like the beef capital of Canada. We've got some damn good barbecue. And also,
I'll take your word for it.
I'll also fight anyone who as good as American. Actually, no. Actually, Peruvian beer is better than all. So, fuck it. But anyway. The thing is that all of this should be within the parameters of your U.S. Constitution. In Canada, there's no free speech, but technically,
yeah, you can't even call her a him.
Yeah, I know. Then you go to the trainee jail, and that's not good. You get you got to spend a week in a place with some gendered individuals. I think they tried that in BC. It's pretty messed up. It's like a gender gulag. But by the way, though, I just want to say that I am in favor of gays in the military, just so I can have a regiment called Gender Queer Grenadiers. I think that would be amazingly funny.
That would be hilarious.
But or the transgender tank regiment. But I digress. Be very colorful. But long story short,
the rainbow military.
I've completely forgot what your point was.
Yeah, my point is at the end of the day that this whole thing should be approached by the U.S. Constitution, which I guess I'll backtrack on what I said, that they should be allowed to speak, but they should be prevented from interacting with each other because we'll have another event that we just did. So really have to wish that the government was it in Virginia that this happened? I've only gotten tail bits of it.
Yeah, it's Virginia.
That the state government would, look at this and say, listen, we dropped the ball. It wasn't just the protesters at hand of it, but we played the major part because we failed to do what we are paid to do and, constitutionally mandated to do, which is to protect the citizens from threat. And, so the governor should, and he won't do it, go out and say, listen, I screwed up. I screwed up big time. It's not going to happen again. And this should be a warning to every other city and every other state where this kind of hooliganism and nonsense goes on, because this is bullshit. It honestly is. People died of different opinions and a Robert E. Lee statue. And personally, I think statues should stay there. I don't like the whole slavery thing, but Robert E. Lee was a friggin' good general, and I'll give him respect as a soldier, but not his slavery. But
wait, someone died there?
Well, a helicopter crashed. But long story short, this should be the watermark, and this is where the escalation needs to end. So we need to step up, and or I should say the government needs to step up and do their best to prevent this in the most constitutionally satisfactory way possible. That's all I got to say, guys. Sorry for rambling on.
No. But hey, by the way, Wednesday we're going to do the Venezuela thing, and on Wednesday, just to let you guys know, because I'm starting to see regulars, which I love this, man. I love having these. But on Wednesday, I'm going to just keep it between Ernest and I, just to avoid the talking over and stuff like that.
I understand.
And so that's cool. So, but yeah, we're going to do that on Wednesday, and yeah, I'm going to cut this short now because I gotta.
What time on Wednesday?
Day.
Usually Wednesday nights, I do it at 9 p.m.
And what time zone are you in?
Oh, I'm in Eastern time.
Okay, so 9 p.m. Eastern. Okay.
And
cool.
I'm in Eastern time too.
And by the way, just really quick, I was going to say I'm starting to do some of these little live streams like this one. I thought I was just going to do it for 10 or 15 minutes. Just so I can get it out there, because now with YouTube, I don't want to. I'm going to continue making videos where I go in and I edit and I take my time because I love that. For me, that's like an art and a hobby. But at the same time, now, especially with this silencing, I feel even more of an urgency to fucking shoot my mouth off and shit.
You hit me both, brother.
So anyway.
Hey, Nachi. As you're enjoying some succulent pork, just feel bad about all the Muslims that are missing out.
I do not even want to get started on the documentary I saw yesterday called What the Health, which I'm going to do a fucking little video on that one. And the end goal was veganism, but whatever. We'd be here for another 3 hours if we start talking about that one.
I do not approve of veganism.
All right, guys.
Hey, thanks, Nachi. I'm going to cut out.
Too.
Enjoy your barbecue. Thanks, all. Take care.
Thanks for having me.
Have a good day, everyone.
Cheerio.
Later. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Later, man. And that concludes a random live stream. I know we can find the balance. And we're going to. Thanks for watching.